Something else that we talk about and is often used in the toolbox of a trainer, and be it a positive trainer, is counter conditioning and desensitisation. So these words get bandied about a lot. Counter conditioning, again, it's a therapy that we can use with humans, so it would be usually used with phobias. So let's talk about snakes, spiders, flying, that type of thing. So if I use snakes as an example, you come to me, you have a phobia of snakes, and I say, it's okay, I'm going to desensitise you or counter condition you with this phobia. It's fine. I am first of all going to give you the skills to be able to relax, and that might be through breathing exercises, it might be through meditation. We are going to provide you with the skills to be able to reduce the stress hormone, which are your cortisol and adrenaline. You know, we're going to be able to help you get on top of that. So your fear or your phobia is snakes. So we're just going to talk about snakes, and that might get the heart rate going. But it's okay. You feel that you're in control. You know that there's nothing in the room, and you're okay. You can deal with that. So that's fairly ethical. Then we're going to move on to the next session, whereby I'm going to show you a picture of a snake. So that might get the heart rate going. Blood pressure could rise slightly with that one, but it's okay. We've given you the skills and the tools to be able to combat that. The next session, we might then say, okay, we're going to actually see a snake. We're going to watch a snake on the television. So this is moving. You know that it's controlled, but you know it's still bringing about all these physiological responses. This emotional response is putting you under pressure. And even though you can reason and be logical and say it's not in the room with me, it's still going to affect you. However, we're going to remind you all stages, all times, okay, you can deal with this, you've got this, breathe. We're going to remind you of your de-stressing skills. And then for our next session, we might say, okay, we're going to go to a reptile house. So that's pretty big. You might not even manage to get through the door, but all the while we can say to you, nothing bad is going to happen. They are contained, they are confined, there is no snake going to get to you. We don't have to push you to handle a snake, but we're going to remind you of the skills that you've got on board to be able to, you know, bring your arousal level down, to deal with your emotions, to de-stress, to relax, to breathe. We've got this. It can be very stressful though. So in the dog training world, if we are looking at counter conditioning, are we going to counter condition and desensitise a dog to fireworks by simply having fireworks playing? That can put the dog under an enormous amount of stress and pressure. Is it fair? Is it ethical? Now, I know that if we're doing desensitisation with sound, you'd have the sound level so low, you know, barely audible, and then it increases. But perhaps if you were trying to desensitise or counter condition a dog to vehicles, you ultimately have to face whatever your fear or phobia is. So we are going to put a dog near traffic. So what happens is the dog's under an enormous amount of pressure, and it builds up and it builds up until the animal can almost shut down. Is that fair and is that ethical? I don't think so. At the Dog Play and the Dog Learning Centre, we question counter conditioning and desensitisation. It's not something you can train, it's something that happens. It happens whilst you are. So we need to look at the methods, we need to question the methods. But that is an example of counter conditioning. And a lot of these counter conditioning, associative learning, operant conditioning, classical conditioning, they're all a little bit mingled and they can be lumped in together. And a lot of people get confused by them. But in a nutshell, and to simplify it, I thought that we would discuss it. And I would put these vlogs out just to give a little bit more information, provide a little bit more thought. We don't need to go into the science of it. We don't want to confuse anybody. If you really want to know the science, there's plenty up there on Google about all of these things.